And I thought I would die using. I had planned on dying using. You know, I used drugs and alcohol all of my life for over 34 years. When I was about 5 years old, my mother and father used to fight all the time, and my father used to beat on my mom. And eventually she moved us to Baltimore. My mother and father divorced, and he had custody of us in the summertime. I had started drinking when I was 8, stealing the liquor out of my father's cabinet in Virginia. A lot of times he would find me passed out in the backyard. He would just put me to bed and tell people not to bother me. When I came back to Baltimore, I would have to take my lunch money and get the old men at the bars to get the liquor for me and drink it. It gave me the false courage to say things that I was afraid to say to my mom or to my relatives, or to the children outside, because the children outside used to chase me home from school. They would beat me up every day, chase me home from school. So I was traumatized, and I was afraid to go outside and sit on the steps. And if I got off the steps and I wasn't on the steps by the time the street lights came on, I knew my mom was going to beat me. So I was always running and hiding from everybody. So the alcohol gave me an opportunity to come out. I would shake in the morning. When I woke up, I would wake up shaking. I would throw up the lining on my stomach, and I would take my lunch money and buy alcohol before I went to school. And in the afternoon, I would take the rest of my money, and I would put it together with other youth, and I would drink. And I had sex for the first time, and I got pregnant at the age of 15. And my mom threatened to have him locked up for statutory rape, so he went into the service. He wasn't allowed to come to the baby shower. He wasn't allowed to take care of his son. He came back and he asked my mother after he got his AIT training that he was going to Japan, and he wanted her to allow me to be emancipated so that he could take me and his son to Japan with him, and she denied it. She said I could go, but she wasn't going to let my baby go. So I had to stay home and let the man go. I was at the age of 17, and I had put my age up and said I was 18, and I met a young man that he was just coming home from incarceration, and I fell head over heels in love with him. I got pregnant for the second time, and he became incarcerated. And I went into fetal distress, and I lost my baby at 5 months. So I had to deliver a deceased baby by natural birth. And that's like the most heart-wrenching thing that happened to me in that time. Only to go on like several more times in my life. I lost babies. I lost 2 sets of twins and two single births. And I have 3 sons. Alcohol was my comforter, cocaine was my upper, and then I could function through the day. I was able to send my children back and forth to school, wash clothes, clean the house, cook dinner, and everything, but I was self-medicating the entire time, managing my trauma issues and the molestation issue. It never surfaced because I was pushing it so far back. All of the abandonment issues and people coming in and out of my life, I was pushing it back. So I had layers and layers of stuff just stuffed inside of me. And eventually, in 1991, my mom was diagnosed with, that's kind of hard for me. My mom was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. November the 1st was her birthday. November the 2nd, she died. 2 months later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that April, my father died. I got hooked on heroin through going through breast cancer surgery and not being properly detoxed from the medication before they sent me home. And I was selling the drugs out of my house. I was jumped. I was brutally raped, beaten, and robbed, and left for dead in my house. And I lost my second set of twins. And I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to kill myself. I continued to use intravenously and smoke cocaine until the year 2000. And that's when I flatlined. And all of a sudden I remember a big gasp of air like, and God had put breath back into my body. And they turned me right back into the street. They turned me right back into the street. They gave me a piece of paper with some programs on it and put me right back on the street. So my son told me, he said, I will not be your enabler and give you money to use drugs every day. But every day that you get up and go out and look to get into a program, Mommy, I'll make sure you're not sick. And he did that. And one of my children went with me to every program in Baltimore City. But I had lost everything. I didn't have any insurance. I didn't have any money to pay for treatment. And there were no free slots available. So I used for another 6 months. And I ended up going back to the Johns Hopkins Hospital, to the social worker. And she finally said, I have a program for you, but it's outpatient. We don't have anywhere inpatient to send you. And when I went to Bayview Hospital, that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I had a personal therapist. So as she worked with me, and she uncovered so many avenues of trauma, so many ways that I had been traumatized. And what we classify that as post-traumatic stress disorder. You stay stressed out because of the traumatization. I am 16 years in long-term recovery. I haven't had a drink or a drug in over 16 years. That's the most clean time that I've ever had from anything. I thought about all the bad things that had happened to me in my life. And I figured, I said, what can I do with all of this pain? How can I resolve some of the things inside of me? And it was the only way to keep it in A is to give it away. So all of the negative things that had happened to me, I went into the community. And I got a job, and one of the same places that I used to walk through and mock people when I was using drugs was the same place that I ended up to become an employee. And so I turned all of that things that had happened to me into positive things of being able to help other people like me. And who could best help them except somebody that's been through the same type of thing? Even amidst some of the struggles that I have in my day-to-day life, I feel complete because I know that I'm doing everything that I do for the right reason today. I'm no longer addicted. My trauma has been addressed. I'm a work in progress, but I like helping people. You know, I have 6 grandchildren, 4 biological and 2 by marriage. But I love my grandchildren. I love taking them out. I have a serious relationship with my children. I'm married, you know. So family stability is very important to me. Life is to be lived regardless of what your barriers and your past has. You know, we have to stand up and we have to move on and live. I existed for a lot of years, but today I'm actually really living.